been having a look around some at local shops today, just to see if there's any bits and bobs that I might want as we get into gardening season. One of the first things that I like to get started in spring are potatoes. And I've got some here that we've been chitting. Those ones, a pink fir apple. Very strange looking potatoes, but we thought we'd try some this year. But today I'm looking at these ones, and these are called Nicola, and they're a second early. So, apart from things like Rocket, which are your first earlies, these ones are what you'd plant next. And we'd like to get those in about mid-April. And we're not doing any first earlies this year because you only get quite small potatoes from those, about the size of an egg. But your second earlies grow that little bit bigger. Not as big as your main crops, but big enough. So we've got some of those. And while we was looking around today, we popped into a local shop, and it's one of those stores that sells a little bit of everything. So when it comes to this time of year, it's always worth a little look round. And I came across these really big containers, 42 litre. And for me, perfect size for your potatoes. Anywhere from 30 litre upwards is brilliant for your potatoes. You don't really need such a massive container as this if you're doing things like first earlies, because you're only growing very small potatoes. But because you want your second earlies to be a little bit bigger, give them that little bit of extra room to grow. And the bigger the container, the more seed potatoes you can put in them. And obviously that means more potatoes when you harvest. But these don't come with holes in bottom, but a couple of minutes with a drill and that's easily sorted out, because you've got to make sure that your potatoes have got very good drainage. Otherwise you could run risk of rotting your seed potato before it even gets started. They're very lightweight and they've got handles on side, so they're perfect for moving around as you need to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off some more second early potatoes today. We've already got some growing behind us in a compost bag, and we've already seen signs of growth from that, even though this weather has been terrible. There's 2 or 3 little shoots starting to appear out at compost, so they're on the way. And from what I've seen at weather, we're not predicted to be getting any more minus temperatures for quite a while, which is great. So while we've got those sort of temperatures, we might as well get started what we can. And we've been chitting these potatoes inside, and as you can see, we've got quite a few chits growing on these, and they're the type that you want, the nice dark coloured ones. And I don't like to have too many chits growing on my potatoes. A lady called Margaret did comment on that exact same thing only yesterday about growing these potatoes, and we've had quite a few messages regarding them because it's now getting to that time where people want to start. So if you get your seed potatoes and you're growing chits and they start to feel a little soft and go a little bit wrinkly, that's perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with those potatoes. As long as you've got that growing on top, they're good to go. But Margaret did mention that when she grew them last year, she seemed to get very tiny potatoes, but a lot of growth on top. And that's due to the fact that you've got too many chits growing on your potato. So you've got more and more shoots that are coming out of that potato, which leads to more top foliage and less potatoes underneath. So to remedy that problem, we just select the ones that look all right on top, usually 2 at the most, and any more that's trying to grow, which are basically pulling nutrition out of that seed potato as they're growing, take those away. Just get rid of them and keep what's on top, and that will ensure that you get more potatoes of a better size. And because we've got this tub and it's a 42 litre, we can put about 3 seed potatoes in here with it being such a good size. So basically what I'm going to do is select a couple of decent ones and again strip off excess amounts of chits and just keep a really nice healthy looking one. And the same with this potato. It's trying to grow chits everywhere, but these ones on the top are perfect. So we'll get rid of all the others. And it can put its energy then into just those. So we've got as 3 potatoes for this container in our selector. We've got as holes ready drilled in bottom. So all we need to do now is get some compost in. And another question that was asked by Margaret was, do you fill the containers right to the top straight away? That is down to preference. You can if you want to, and just leave them to grow until they reach that top, or you can put the potatoes in just a few inches from the bottom and then cover them with a few more inches of compost, and then wait until you see that plant starting to emerge, and then bury it again until you get to the top. But either way, it's up to you. If you're at risk of getting frost in your area and you've got any potato foliage that's sticking out the top of that compost, if the frost hits it, it's going to turn that black, which is basically that chit that you've just grown that has now become a plant, rendered useless. So basically that potato will then have to start again and grow another chit and send up another shoot, which in turn is pulling more energy and nutrients out of your seed potato and costing time on top. So to remedy that, as you're growing these and you're not sure you're past your last frost date, every time you see foliage emerging from your compost, put more compost on top and keep it buried, because that'll protect it. And also put a bit of bubble wrap over the top as well to double insulate it until these temperatures pick up. Or if you wanted to, you could just completely fill this container and then you're done with it. Because no matter how deep you bury that seed potato, it will find its way to the surface. So I hope that answers a few questions for people. So now we'll get on with planting these second early potatoes. You know, when we sieve compost, I always save what we call the waste. There's nothing wrong with it and it's full of nutrients, but it's very lumpy and it's no good for starting seeds. But we save this because it's perfect for filling the bottoms of containers when we're doing these type of plantings. This is really good to put in your bottom, and because it is so lumpy, it also helps with drainage. So we're going to put this in this container. So I've popped all that in there and it's basically filled up to there, about 4 inches high front bottom. Then we can pop these seed potatoes in. So when it comes to actually planting your seed potatoes in here, these are the ones that we've selected. And as we mentioned before, we've knocked off any chits that we don't want and we've kept a couple of nice ones on top. And what we'll do is we'll just pop one in like that, chit side up, but I'll push it into that compost a little bit just to make sure it stays upright. And then I'll plant one there. And if your chit is a little bit far down on your potato, don't worry about it, because it will turn itself as it grows and then go up. And then we've got another one, exact same. And we'll do the exact same thing with that. And we'll create that triangle. So each potato's got plenty of room to grow. And we've also got some Grow More multi-purpose fertiliser. So we're just adding a nice amount of that to the bottom so that we know that this container has got plenty of feed. And then we can just bury these seed potatoes. And that's where your option comes in. You can either just do that and just bury it, just by a few inches, so the potato is completely covered. And you could just leave it at that. Or if you want to get the job over and done with, you could fill it right to the top. That choice is entirely up to you. For the moment, I'm just going to bury them a few inches. So then after a couple of weeks, you'll see the potato plants emerging from this compost. And you know you're on your way. And then if you want, you can completely fill this container, or you could just keep burying them. Also bear in mind that first and second early potatoes, when they grow outwards. So you're trying to fill the entire area of this container on one level. So the more space this way you've got, potentially the more potatoes you can get. Unlike when you do main crops, you have to keep burying them and burying them and burying them, because they keep sending out extra tubers. The more that you bury them, the more potatoes you get. First and second earlies just grow on that one level. And something we did last year is we bury those potatoes about halfway, and then at alternate places to where we put as original seed potatoes, we added a couple more. And that way we can maximise the amount of potatoes growing in this container. We can have potatoes growing at one level and then potatoes growing at another level. So that is something you could also do to maximise that harvest. But for the moment, I'm just going to stick with the 3 that we've put in. And then I'm just going to give it a quick water, just so we know there's moisture in there. But we don't want them constantly sat in wet compost, or again, you could rot your potato. And then because we don't 100% trust that weather just yet, I'm going to put some bubble wrap in there as well. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but if that bad weather does return and we start getting minus temperatures, it's always better to know you've got that little bit of extra protection until you get these plants established. So there we go, we've got another container of potatoes on the way, and these are the Nicola second early ones. And we'll be doing a few more of those as we go through April, and then as we approach the end of April, we'll sort out all his main crops. And if you want to, by that time you'll be perfectly fine to plant them outside in raised beds. But for me this year, all my potatoes are going to be going in containers, because in containers you can move things around if you get any freak weather to prevent damage to your plants. And especially where I live, with the gusting winds that we get, every single year without fail, we have potatoes in raised beds outside that get knocked flat over by winds, and that's going to affect your harvest. So this year we're not taking that risk. We're going to put them in handy containers like this, so in the event that we do get bad weather, we can just pick them up and move them out of harm's way. So hopefully this video has proved useful to you in more ways than one. And we'll just pop these to one side now, knowing we've got a second container on its way. We've also got lots more things that we need to be doing through this week, including moving on some of these brassicas that are getting a little bit too big for these packs now. If you're interested in seeing what other things we're going to be doing as we very quickly approach spring, then please hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell. And we look forward to seeing you on the next update. We'll take care.